Welcome to Famous Faces Face Off, a show that has the most famous of figures doing battle while debating. Today we interview the 33rd US President and the tyrannical king of communism. So, I'm sorry, what is your name again? You're kidding me, right? I'm Joseph Stalin, the Soviet leader. Of course. So this is an interview regarding the events that occurred on the 24th of June in 1948, and they lasted until the 12th of May in 1949. Come again? The Berlin Blockade, an international crisis that you caused. Well, that seems a little harsh. I thought I was being interviewed in order to show the world how great I am. Please, hell is not yet frozen over. What is Truman doing here? We're trying to provide a history lesson for those that are watching, and in order to do so, we need to have more than one famous figure present so we can have a balanced argument or a debate. Good luck having a sophisticated discussion with this mustachioed menace. He's as stubborn as a mule. One of the reasons the blockade started was because the US and the USSR disagreed with each other when it came to dealing with Germany after the Second World War. Despicable Germans. Mr. Truman, care to elaborate on that? Certainly. Stalin wanted to cripple Germany, bring it to its knees, for the safety of the USSR. But I pointed out that it would just be a repeat of the Treaty of Versailles. We didn't want to make an enemy of Germany by punishing them severely. Bah. But it wasn't just that, was it? There was a post-war division in Germany when the Allied powers reached the Potsdam Agreement. The now defeated Germany was split into 4 temporary zones, and the capital of Germany, Berlin, was split into 4 sectors: the French sector, the British sector, the American sector, and the Soviet sector. And Berlin was actually located 100 miles inside the Soviet sector itself. So we were producing most of Germany's food supply. Do I look like a chef? There was also something regarding the currency in Western Germany, wasn't there? Yeah, the Reichsmark needed to be reformed in order to create an economically stable Germany. But the Soviets didn't like that idea. They believed the only currency allowed to circulate was the currency they'd issued themselves. In February 1948, the Americans and the British proposed that a new German currency should be created. So we announced a new and improved Deutschmark on the 18th of June, and our plan to employ it on the 21st of June. We did not want to employ the Deutschmark, but no one ever listens to us. The Allied forces had already transported 250 million Deutschmarks into Berlin, where it quickly became the standard currency in all 4 sectors. All this money, and the Marshall Plan, George Marshall is a legend in my books, had the potential to revitalize Germany, which wasn't what I wanted. So how does Stalin, the wise and noble leader, react? By cutting off Berlin from the rest of the world. Wow. Stalin, how did you do this? On the 18th of June in 1948, I got Soviet guards to halt all passenger trains on the outskirts of Berlin. I delayed Western and German shipments and made sure that all the water transport had Soviet permission. Because that isn't controlling it all. Shut your trap, American dog! I'd advise you not to speak to me like that. Come on now, gentlemen, we must stay calm. Mr. Truman, how did you and the other Allied forces deal with this? We put the Berlin airlift into action. There were 3 20-mile-wide corridors that provided us with free access to Berlin. However, in the case of an unarmed aircraft refusing to turn around, the Soviets would have to shoot it down to enforce the blockade. It's the Soviet way. Anyway, we were relieved to find out that the RAF in Britain was already organizing an airlift in aid of British troops in Berlin. So naturally, we asked if we could join them and prevent starvation in Berlin. Reginald Waite was a British air commodore who had estimated how much we needed to fly into Berlin per day. The numbers were shocking. I know, I have them. 1,534 tons of food and drink, and another 3,475 tons of coal and gasoline. We were in a bit of a pickle, but we needed a hell of a lot of planes in order to get 5,000 tons of necessities off the ground. Luckily for us, there were contributions from the Australians and the British. But we didn't take well to it. There were radio broadcasts to make clear how we felt, but as usual, no one paid attention. Of course, the sensible thing to do would be to stop blockade. And what did the dictator do? Please, it wasn't that extreme. You tried to obstruct the corridors with your planes, blind our pilots with searchlights, and you bombed, killed, and to be quite frank, got in the way. Why are you complaining? Not like any of these methods worked. The results after the airlift weren't any good either. There are 101 reported fatalities with the operation, mostly due to plane crashes, and the relationship between the East and West were worsened. To top it off, it basically eliminated any hopes that Germany would be united again. And who's to blame for it all? None other than Joe Stalin. You know it's Joseph, Harry. Are you looking for a war, Stalin? We all know you're afraid of the atom bomb. Say that to my face! Well, that's all we have time for today on Famous Faces Face Off. But join us next time where we'll have Hitler taking on Churchill and getting to the bottom of the Second World War. Goodbye.